Restoring Men in History. Brett Cooper's first show was good, and we agree on a lot of the points that she made about welcoming people to our side, the freedom side. And we always say this, come on over to the freedom side. We have more fun, but we're also more fulfilling. So here's the thing. When Whitney Cummings clip that we're going to go into here, she was attacked after that. Let's go to Brett Cooper's first clip and Whitney Cummings New Year's Eve. I watched this. It was great. Watch.
It specifically came up on New Year's Eve after the actress and comedian Whitney Cummings did a set on CNN's New Year's Eve show. And if you missed it, just take a look.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's, oh God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
No!
I thought being a mom would mean that less people would want to come see me. I'm now playing, like 3,000 seat theater,
awesome.
which is about the viewership of CNN these days.
I mean, it's so great. Like, this entire set, she is basically shocked they have not cut her off. You can tell that she's uncomfortable. She's like very tentative. She's taking a risk, making all of these jokes that are incredibly honest. They're incredibly genuine and insightful about the state of our world and the state of politics. And people loved it. Like, she went on for like 5 minutes and everybody was, again, literally in shock that she was not cut off. And of course, she immediately went viral on X. Some people had never heard of her before. They were so excited to find, another brave and honest comedian who was willing to push boundaries and make these kinds of very, relevant jokes. But what makes the story interesting is that people turned on her as quickly as they fell for her because they realized that 5 years ago when COVID was raging, she used to be very pro-vaccine and that she even had vaccine mandates for some of her live shows during that 2020-2021 period. And you have some tweets here. You can see her talking about the vaccine, saying that, God, we need a vaccine. Can we make a vaccine now? Go, we need a vaccine. Chop, chop on that vaccine. Like, she was tweeting about this constantly. And immediately, people on X started calling her out. They were calling her a grifter and a fraud, saying that she was an opportunist, that she was taking advantage of this time in culture when things were shifting to the right to try to make a name for herself. They literally lost their damn minds. And again, this happened in a matter of hours. I watched her videos go viral. I was like, man, this girl is so cool. I've seen her on TV. And then suddenly everybody hated her. And it makes no sense to me. Like, they were angry that she had not issued a formal apology before getting up and doing a comedy set. Like, they were angry that her track record wasn't perfect. Like, guys, nobody in the world has a perfect track record.
So I saw this on New Year's Eve on YouTube, thought it was fantastic. I was thrilled that Whitney Cummings was right in front of CNN, jabbing at them, making her jokes on them. That was fantastic. And I thought they'd cut her off too. But look, when people come over, how do you want to be treated when you come over to a new cause or a new standing or new principles? You want to be welcomed or you want to be attacked? So I was thrilled and I agree. What are we doing here anyway? And why are we doing this? Why do we do these videos? We already run men's groups. We already do conferences. Why do we do the YouTube channel? To build men, build minds, and build a republic. And how do you build a republic? One way to build a republic is to have more people come over and appreciate the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights, which is in the Constitution, or the free fair markets, or whatever principles they agree with us on, a secure border, and then welcome them. And I've said it many times in the videos, if you were for the jab or the mask, it's okay. Come on over to the freedom side. We have more fun, right? I used to say that line all the time. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Come over to the freedom side. We want voters and people coming over and sharing our values, virtues, and principles, right? We also want them voting. We want them registering with Mr. Scott Pressler and Ray Ray and all those fantastic and magnificent people of Pennsylvania, Gina and everyone else, Ellis. And Brett goes on to something we also say. So this is why I really like this video from Brett. This is why I also like this video from Brett. We agree with follow the actions of people too, right? You can say one thing and do something else. And we especially, I don't want to go into the politicians. They're a little different, but we're talking about people, celebrities or whomever coming over that are not being paid by you to be a senator or a rep. It's a little different with them if they voted for years and years and they say they're going to lower and decrease the size and scope of government and the budget and then do it a little different. But let's talk about the people she's talking about, not the politicians. And we will get into a few politicians like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., but I'm talking about people that have been in there for decades and never changed. And yes, COVID, the madness of COVID, the lockdowns, the jabs, the mask, never want to see that happen again, right? Now, if we never want to see that happen again, what do we want to do? We want to recruit more people. We want to change minds. We want them to believe in freedom. We want them to believe in choice, right? So we want more people standing with us, not less. So we want people coming over. I remember I was in Best Buy, and it was me not in a mask, and every single other person in the store with a mask, and I held up my camera, my iPhone, and took a picture. I've got that picture. I did it. I've got that was Best Buy. Same thing happened at Walmart. Everybody's in a mask with me over and over. Same thing happened at a Wendy's where a guy moved away from me. I watched this outside of a cigar bar I was at in downtown. This guy was not in the cigar bar. He was not smoking. I was. Dropped his mask. It was raining in the mud. Picked it up out of the mud and put it on his face. So there was a madness to people wearing the mask, right? So we will never forget that. But nevertheless, if we want to welcome people if they want to come over to the freedom side, welcome people if they share our values and virtues now and they've changed. Next clip, which we agree with.
Most importantly, isn't the goal to change people's minds and bring them over to the other side and show them the light? Like, that is what my goal is. But now people are seemingly upset when that happens because these individuals who have come over weren't right all along. Like, we spent 10 years fighting tooth and nail, proving people wrong, fighting back against cancellations, dispelling allegations about us, about our political party, about things going on in the world, exposing corruption and lies day after day after day, trying to convince people. I thought that that was the goal. I actually look at Whitney Cummings as a huge win, like a bold win, a refreshing acknowledgement of how far we've come, how many people have bravely, dipped their toe onto the other side who have admitted that they were wrong and that they've now seen the light. That is objectively a very good thing. And I commend her, and we should all commend her, for having the bravery to admit when she was wrong and take a step to the other side.
So that is one of the goals, right? Bring people over, change minds, make people think. What do we say? Build men, build minds, build a republic. And how do you build a republic? We just said it. So that's one of the goals, I think, at least, to convince people or at least make them think so they're open to new ideas that we protect, and also introduce them to some history when they can take it, right? We just did the 1798 Act, right? The Sedition Act, which was about taking away your freedom of speech. And again, it's going to come up here, freedom of speech, in Missouri v. Biden in a second. I'm going to bring that up. She doesn't. So we want more people advocating for the free speech. We want more people advocating for the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the separation of powers, and pro-Constitution, right? That's a good thing, right? So the comedian, Whitney Cummings, came over, the comedian actress, and that makes us better and stronger, White, if she's true. And you're going to watch her, right? But that takes a lot of courage to come over and say you were wrong, because that's basically saying you were wrong, right? Because you saw all those notes and videos she had up on the jab, take the vaccine, but she's come around. So that takes courage. I applaud the courage like Brett does. Totally agree on Whitney Cummings and very glad she came over. And we may just have some things in common. And again, she talks about an evolution. We've talked about this. You can watch people over time evolve. So she says that Whitney Cummings, she watched evolve going on Chris Williams' show and some others, and she evolved over time with us. And you can trace that. You become a mother or a father, you're going to change, right? So Whitney Cummings became a mother, and that can definitely change a person, right? You can also, instead of evolving, have a huge transformational moment, which we saw, like the Batman, when his parents are killed in front of him, or another character in a movie where they have that transformational moment, which changes them rather rapidly. And she said, someone made a comment, it's 4 years too late. It's not too late. We want people to come over now. Whether it's been 4, 8, 10, 20, 30 years, come on over to the freedom side. We'll give you more freedom and choices, and we want you to be successful. So it's never too late to come over. And she talks about people can change, and people can change. People can think and change. And you can watch them and you can be cautioned. But I agree with this. When you're welcoming somebody, you don't want to be a troll. You don't want to be nasty. If somebody's coming over to our side, what do we want to do? We want to affirm that decision and make them feel better about it and welcome them. And no one's perfect, right? You're not going to be perfect online. You're not going to be perfect in videos. You're not going to be perfect anywhere. Then she moves on to Bud Light and companies. So people and companies. And she talks about Bud Light is making all these changes. So we won't go into that part of it. But the thing is, if a company truly changes their ways and eliminates DEI and affirmative action and woke policies and they're really trying to be a force for good. We want that, right? We want them on our side for freedom, right? I think so. Then she talks about Mark Zuckerberg. So there's an evolution of Mark Zuckerberg. He trained in martial arts. I trained in martial arts, in fact, in jiu-jitsu as well. And I do think it can change you as a man. So there's an evolution to him. And then there can be also an evolution and transformational moment. And I believe, like her, I believe fully the transformational moment was July 13th when Trump stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. Let's watch the clip that she put up in her video. By the way, this is a magnificent moment in American history. Not the Trump of Trump, but let's watch Zuckerberg talk about it, how it changed him. Go.
Seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life.
So this is a magnificent moment. By the way, I was a Trump guy from 2015 on, from the escalator on. And even for me, this moment was amazing. I remember where I was, downtown. I remember whom I was with. I remember everything about this moment. And I was honored to be an American. And so thrilled with my country and Donald Trump in this moment when he stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. And I think that would change many people. It didn't change me. I was already for Trump. But I think it would change many people, not just Mark Zuckerberg. I think that is one of those Batman transformational moments that changes a person. When you see Trump standing up after he's been shot saying, fight, fight, fight. And he doesn't know that there are other shooters around him. What was he saying? In that moment, he was telling you Americans to go on. That no matter what happens, you've got to go on. You've got to save this republic and protect it. That's a great man and an American hero. And I think it was a transformational moment for many. And you can tell Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, Elon Musk, same thing. He talked about this moment. I think it affected many people in Silicon Valley and others around the whole nation. And everybody may not be saying it, but I think it was a transformational moment for this country and Donald Trump's presidency and all Americans who saw it, or at least many Americans who saw it. Many Americans. So one more thing she talks about, Mark Zuckerberg, there's several interviews. He's talking about bringing back free speech. Here's the point. We did a whole men's group where I went over the Missouri v. Biden case, and that got sidetracked. My point of those cases was that the federal government should not be abridging free speech of the press, the freedom of speech or the press. And even in that case in the Orange County, a bunch of intelligent guys, it got sidetracked into Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. Listen, public-private corporation, either one. The First Amendment's not for restraining them, it's for restraining the federal government. And Mark Zuckerberg talked about the FBI agents coercing him. The Twitter files talk about it. Terry Dowdy said it's Orwellian in 1984-ish. So my point, when I reviewed these cases, Missouri v. Biden, which later became Murthy versus Biden, was what? The federal government is restrained from impeding. And that is scary, and she talks about it. It's scary that the federal government is so big and powerful and willing to seemingly just wipe the Constitution, wipe out the First Amendment, denigrate it, and go coerce people into controlling narratives, telling them what to say, telling them what they can't say, when we deliberately wrote the First Amendment to restrain the federal government. And here's where this dialogue has gotten off. The federal government was far, far worse, I completely agree with her, than Mark Zuckerberg. And the fact that he was scared, and I agree with her on this, the fact that a billionaire with a platform to communicate to everybody was scared of the federal government shows who knew we were watching. Who do we need to be watching? U.S. House of Representatives, Supreme Court, the federal government, the administrative state. And we need to be watching the administrative state and the bureaucrats and the agencies. Because that is serious to your freedom. And it is a threat to your freedom when they do that. So all those actions, hiring Dana White for the board, Mark Zuckerberg has evolved and taken action. We're going to watch the actions of people. Glad to see Tulsi Gabbard going around speaking. When she was speaking, I was thrilled that she was going around speaking for our principles and ideas and about censorship and free speech. Same with RFK Jr. I was glad he came over. I was glad he combined with the Trump campaign. So let's welcome people when they come over, especially voters and regular Americans, or if it's a celebrity, whatever it is. If they want to come over to the freedom side, let's welcome them, not attack them. You can watch them. You can be cautious with them. But let's also do this, because I've seen it get off track in groups when I'm trying to talk about the First Amendment and how the federal government needs to be restrained from breaking the First Amendment. People are getting sidetracked on private and public companies and what they're doing. If the federal government is coercing them, telling them to censor speech and the narrative, that's the part I want to focus on and watch those guys. Those guys are directly, seemingly breaking the Constitution, walking all over it. So watch the federal government. Stand up for the Constitution. Be careful on the massive power of the federal government. But remember, everybody makes mistakes. And when they come over and they've made mistakes, and we're going to continue to make mistakes, welcome them. You can watch them, but let's be welcoming and build men, build minds, and build the republic. Thank you.